Throughout this last year, Ubisoft produced a series of flops that cost the studio hundreds of millions of dollars. As a result, a group of shareholders have started to form a coalition so that they can exert more control over what's going on with Ubisoft that they wouldn't necessarily have as individuals. Naturally, this has freaked out the Guillemot family, who currently has a majority of the board of directors seats, because if enough shareholders actually get together, they can pretty much oust the current leadership over at Ubisoft, something that they don't want. So one of the ways that they've thought about trying to get around this is basically taking the company private. However, the Guillemot family isn't necessarily quick to do this either, because they can't take the company private on their own. They would need some other outside investors basically to buy out the current shareholders that they have. And that's where we're getting kind of to the subject of today's video too, because right now it's being reported that there are discussions being had behind the scenes about taking the company private, but the Guillemot family doesn't want to go through with this if they're just going to trade one group of investors trying to fight them for control with another group of investors. Ubisoft reportedly looking on buyout plans, currently looking for a deal that would allow Guillemot family to stay in control of Assassin's Creed Studio, for reasons like I said. They don't want to just trade one group of people that they have to fight with another group. After it was previously revealed that Ubisoft was entertaining the idea of buying out their outstanding stock shares and taking the company private, a new report has confirmed that not only is the Assassin's Creed studio actively working towards this goal, but they're attempting to do so in a way that will allow its founders, the Guillemot family, to retain control of its operations. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that they've been pushing a lot of DEI and wokeness in their games, which have resulted in their games failing, or it's a large contributor that's speculated as to why their games are failing. However, other studios, when they kind of dabble in this sort of thing, they do so because they think it's going to be profitable for them. Ubisoft, on the other hand, has even said in the past that they believe that that's a reason why their games have failed, but they don't want to stop with it too, because they're true believers in this cause, so they're going to continue on with it. This is something that their current shareholders are unhappy with, and that's why they're going to try to maintain or wrestle some control away, so that they have to get away from this sort of thing. But if the Guillemot family is ultimately successful in getting rid of the shareholders while maintaining control, well, then we're going to see more of this cranked up to 11, because at that point they would have no reason to try to appease anyone else. They don't have to try to be a little bit tempered on any of this stuff. They can just go full DEI and basically make their Dustborn version of Assassin's Creed, because that's ultimately what the Guillemot family wants with the company. So if you actually want Ubisoft to go back to making games how they used to, well, this is bad news for that if the Guillemot family is successful in maintaining control of the company. The latest update on the French developer's ongoing implosion was first brought to light by Reuters reporter Amy Jo Crowley and Julie Zhu, who reportedly learned of the buyout's current status from two people familiar with the matter. So we don't necessarily know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. You can take this with a pinch of salt because these sources are anonymous. But executives at Ubisoft have already said publicly that buying out the current shareholders is something that's being discussed. So to me, the idea that the Guillemot family is looking to also try to maintain control just seems like common sense. According to said insiders, Ubisoft, as well as our minority shareholder, Chinese developer Tencent, who currently own 10% of the company, and various other investors about funding a management-led buyout. And Tencent's involvement, to me, is not necessarily a good news either, because it's speculated that Tencent is a large reason why Ubisoft has been going down this direction, or they've been kind of pushing them down this DEI direction. Even though Tencent is a Chinese company, and in China, they forbid their companies from producing DEI and woke stuff in their stuff, because they understand it's not good for your culture to have that stuff shoved into it. And it's also bad for business. But for a lot of their companies that are international, they will export this sort of thing. And it's believed that they're doing this intentionally in order to try to tank the stock value so that they can actually buy up more and basically maintain more control. And that seems to be what's been going on right now. Tencent is pushing this stuff at Ubisoft. Their stock value is not an all-time low, but pretty close to an all-time low. And now they're looking to try to team up with the Guillemot family to basically have sole control over the company. So it does kind of go in line with what people are speculating they were trying to do all along. For those unfamiliar with the deeper intricacies of corporate finance and business terminology, a management buyout entails a company's leadership with the possible financial assistance of other major investors buying out all the publicly outstanding shares of a given entity in order to take the company private and assert more direct control of its future direction. While Crowley and Zhu sources did not provide any details as to the specific discussions occurring at Ubisoft's upper levels, they did note that the Guillemot family has indicated it would like to retain the control it has over the company. And kind of like what I was saying, that just seems like common sense that they'd be doing that sort of thing. As for Tencent, the pair of reporters were informed that the company is currently unsure of whether or not it will actually participate in the buyout. Their decision resting on whether or not Ubisoft will honor their request to have a greater say on future board decisions, including cash flow distribution. And that is the big deal right here because, like I was saying, Tencent ultimately wanted to have more control over what's going on at Ubisoft. If they were trying to tank the value of the company so that they can buy more control over it, this seems to be going in line with that. It seems like the Guillemot family understands that this might be a possibility here, so that's why they want to maintain that they can have more control over the company, or at least they have a majority say in the company. Then they don't have to worry about what Tencent is doing. Tencent, on the other hand, is doing what I believe, or what many people were speculating they were trying to do, which is to ruin the company so that they can basically take over it. However, despite this and a slow and steady strategy, the China-based gaming giant has supposedly expressed concern that should they decline to fund Ubisoft's privatization efforts, any number of other companies could perform a hostile takeover of the Far Cry studio by putting up the money in exchange for becoming a majority shareholder. And that is the thing right now. Ubisoft and the Guillemot family will basically say, we're looking for people who are willing to buy out the current investors. They're hoping that Tencent will kind of work with them on that one, and they strike a deal with Tencent that the Guillemot family has control, whereas Tencent gets more of a share in the company, even if they don't necessarily have a say in what's going on with the company. But if Ubisoft does basically try to buy out their current shareholders and Tencent backs out, well, then anyone else could basically step up and say, like, okay, we'll take over the company then, and then basically oust the current Guillemot family if they don't have that deal working with them. And this is something that I've thought like would be a good move for Elon Musk, because he had said in the past that he'd make gaming great again. He wants to start his own studio to make video games again. And I could see a scenario in which he would basically buy out Ubisoft and oust the current Guillemot family from there and put his own people in charge, similar to what he did over at X, and have a video game studio. And to me, this is a better move for Elon Musk because he doesn't have to worry about building something from the ground up, just taking over an existing studio that has a huge legacy behind it with a lot of famous IPs under its belt, and just start producing games that people want to play again. And we already have a template to go by with a lot of the other Assassin's Creed games. Just make more stuff like that. I don't necessarily think he's going to do that, but if Elon Musk was serious about actually trying to make video games great again, I think this would be more of a reasonable approach for him as opposed to trying to start something from the ground up. But I don't know. That's just what I personally think about this. But to me, a lot of this main point of this story about how they're just trying to maintain control over their company, like I said, it seems like it's a reasonable thing because this is ultimately what it's about. The Guillemot family doesn't like that people are within their own company, their investors are going to try to tell them what to do because they are true believers in the DEI and woke agenda, and they'll ride their company to the ground if that's what it takes. So if you want Ubisoft to go back to producing games that are good, that people want to play, that aren't just going to be failures, well, then you should hope that people who are able to actually be successful in taking control away from the current leadership at Ubisoft, because if this current people who are in charge at Ubisoft right now are able to maintain or gain more control over what's going on with the company, then like I was saying, we're just going to see more of the same right now. But we don't know what's going to happen because there's a lot of things that need to happen, and not one entity is able to actually fully commit to what's going on right now. So this is going to be something that is going to develop over, I think, the next couple of years or so. And I think a lot of this is also predicated on what happens with Assassin's Creed Shadows, because I think they're hoping that that will be a huge success for them. And that's going to be enough to basically stave off any attacks for the time being. But if Assassin's Creed Shadow is a failure on the level of Star Wars Outlaws or X Defiant, then I think we're going to see a greater effort within the current shareholders to take over control. And at that time, the coalition might be so great that they would actually just reject any offer by the current leadership at Ubisoft to buy them out, because they can just say, like, we don't need you to buy us out because we can just get rid of you right now and we have the company. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Do you think that that'll happen where they'll maintain control of the company? I'm talking the Guillemot family will be able to buy out the current shareholders with it, or do you think they're just going to grow their coalition until they can basically oust the current leadership right there? Comment below, let me know. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button. If you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news, don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.